Greetings. We're live. Modern Relics
Hey,
podcast. I'm
everybody.
still Angel. He's still Lucky. We're still on
trying to
YouTube.
be.
We haven't been kicked off yet. That's good news.
That is good news.
What's up?
It's always
What's
good
new?
news.
We were just talking. I
Not
cut
much.
you off because we were going live, but we were just talking about tires, and you trying to figure out if you still had some tires under warranty because you had a blowout on Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking the kid, Aaron was taking the kids early in the morning to the airport to go down to visit you.
Yeah.
And by kids, I mean my daughter and her boyfriend.
Mhm.
And so it's one of those situations where normally my wife is probably one of the most, and I'll use the word sturdy, like emotionally sturdy human beings. Like
Mhm.
not anything, very few things really rattle her at all, and she'll take everything pretty much head on and almost recklessly,
Yeah.
as it says behind me. But in the case of anything car related, like if she breaks down anywhere, she turns into a puddle, like full on. The minute that it happens, she goes into little girl panic state, and it has been that way since her and I have been dating. It is something that it just buckles her, which is weird because she can fix cars. Like she can actually
Yeah.
change a tire, change oil. She's changed out the headlights. She can do all of kind of minor mechanical stuff. But if she's broken down in any type of roadway, like it's not so much the mechanical issue that terrifies her. It is that other people are seeing her broken down that terrifies her. It is a social situation for her. So a flat tire situation is like on a highway, especially, is one of those cases where she would kind of just buckle under the pressure, and I would get an immediate phone call, and I would have to either get to her or figure out somebody if I can't get somebody to her. In this particular case, it was actually very fortunate because she had my very capable Kate's very capable boyfriend
Yeah.
with her, and so within 20 minutes on the way to the airport, he had that tire off and the spare on, and they were gone on the side of the freeway. And so I didn't even hear about it until I woke up, and Aaron had already been home for a little bit after dropping them off early on at the airport. So, but in the meantime, I've got to figure out whether or not those tires, which we just got in July,
Yeah.
after my son's unfortunate incident in my vehicle, the hour after I paid the vehicle off, that those tires should still be under warranty. So I got to figure that out tomorrow. But I was very, very grateful for Wiley being there to kind of handle that situation without even thinking about it. He just popped in and took care of it. And that gives me a comfort to know that my daughter is in very capable hands. And so, yeah.
It was unfortunate because he was having tire troubles on his rental car when he was down here too. So
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
That it was nearly the same kind of situation. But speaking of which, they flew in and they stayed with you, and they had a great time. So
Awesome.
they spent the time. They went to a concert down there. They
Country Western music show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now Chris Stapleton, if I'm not mistaken. Unfamiliar, but apparently he's a big name in the industry, and they care for him. They like him, and they said it was one of the better shows that they've seen. Reigniting Wiley's interest in live music performance, because apparently he had bad experiences prior to that and was not necessarily a fan of concert going, and it was primarily attached to her, like his past relationships that soured that for him. But that being said, I mean, they did a bunch of cool stuff. They went to like Omega Mart, and they went to let's see, the antique mall. They went to the Bass Pro Shop. They went to all over the place. They hung out on the strip for a little bit because he'd never been there. They went to Fremont. They went during the day though, and she said it was kind of depressing during the day.
Yeah.
She said it wasn't super awesome, but and then they went to the Mob Museum down there in
Mhm.
Fremont. They said that was really cool, and then. They went to the Jason Aldean restaurant. They ate at Cane's a couple of like 3 times apparently. Um, and then yeah, they said that they hung out with you, got to you put some tomahawks on the
I
smoker, which
did.
which you're famous for, and I always appreciate that. And uh, just basically hung out, and then they went down to. Oh, you guys went to the range and
Mhm.
did some shooting,
We did.
and and then they went down to Lake Havasu to go visit my grandmother, Kate's great grandmother, and got to see my cousin Tristan and her husband Jeremy, and then my aunt Kim and Uncle Andy very briefly on both of those, and then hung out with my great grandmother for the evening. They had pizza and hung out and got to sit by the pool a little bit and hang, just go, Wiley got to meet all these new faces and all that. So it was pretty cool. They had a good time. They were pretty exhausted when they got back.
Oh, I knew
picked
it
them up from the
too.
airport.
I kind of told them both. I was like, try to exhale a little bit because you're gonna blink your eyes and be right back home and wonder what happened with the whole week. Like, so,
Yeah, for sure.
like, yeah, they were pretty much gone from the time they got up until late at night every night they were here. So I really only got to spend time with them on Friday, which is all right because I had to work most of the week. So it was
Yeah.
totally cool. But yeah, it's I hope they had a great time. It was fun. It was always good to see them. So
And once again, I appreciate the hosting of
Yeah.
that. That was very, very cool of you. And I was talking with Aaron about the fact that, I mean, prior to Kate, I would imagine that there was a few babies in your life that you got to be around and hold.
mhm.
But overall, like in as far as like as once you got out of high school, basically, Kate was probably the first baby you held.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah, and so and have watched her. I mean, you were in the hospital the day she was born, and you got to watch her grow and into a sweet but somewhat quiet little girl, into a quirky little softball player, really into developing a personality and becoming an adult. And for me, it was a day to day, obviously, as her dad, but for someone who got to dip into her life frequently, but periodically, and get to see those stages. What was your take on her? And furthermore, on uh, meeting Wiley and the take that you took on that?
Like, there's several distinct memories of Kate in my mind that I always kind of fall back to when her name is mentioned, and principally around Christmas when she was 6, maybe, where it was like, what do you want for Christmas? And she just rattled off, I want a blue Barbie and maybe a green Barbie and maybe a red Barbie, and like kind of went on but that was like the universe at that point, and it's like little vignettes like that throughout life. So for me, it's clutch your pearls kind of jump scary to see a functioning young adult that has a mind of her own and mannerisms, and is driving and paying bills and going to work and talking about things that are happening at work. And like, I'm just, you know what I mean? Like, you go from those memories to these new ones, and it's pretty jarring. But I think you've raised a really cool kid. I think she's got a super solid head on her shoulders, and she's not got her head in the clouds about anything pretty much in any vector, which is awesome. Wiley I liked a lot. He did a lot of stuff that I liked. opens the door for her, is very polite, you know, very attentive kind of thing, super chill. Like their energy is very low.
Yeah.
You know, even together. So to me, that's like, well, that's really cool. But the way they talked about just enjoying each other's company and like being each other's best friends, more or less, I'm like, well, hang on to that. That's a pretty solid basis for a good relationship. You know what I mean?
For
Like
sure. Yeah.
it's nice when you can enjoy the person's company that you're with the most.
And it's not performative either.
Correct.
You
Yeah,
can
yeah.
tell there's a genuine a genuine joy that they feel together, that and they, you know, they have a genuine connection that is not forced in any capacity. It is very, very natural, and they seem to have a very similar kind of cadence and timing with everything, and that is day in and day out. I mean, we see both of them daily, and it's definitely something that, as adults who have had multiple or many relationships, and as people who have gone through the ups and downs of those things, you tend to notice that when you're younger, the compatibility of those type of things is something that you don't notice when you're young. You're just kind of Twitter pated, and it's hot and cold, and you're trying to work through who you are as opposed to who you are together. And they seem to have that cadence already down.
Yeah.
Like they complement each other in such a way that even if they didn't have such a unique close friendship in that relationship, that it's actually also that they would even be compatible just by the nature of the timing and cadence of who they are as people individually. But yeah, you're right. That is an astute assessment of the limited time that you had. You could pick up on those things pretty quickly.
And it's nice to see, because I'm universes apart from 20-year-old human beings in lifestyle, mentality, language. You know, so it's cool to actually be able to carry conversation with people that age and not try to decipher what words they're using and what they mean, kind of thing, which is actually kind of a real situation. So
totally,
it's really nice and refreshing to be like, oh, cool. You can
actually talk to those two and not feel like you're talking to a Gen Z idiot.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that I take pride in, is that my kids do not fall into that category of using the colloquialisms or the vernacular, or even just having the tone and attitude of your average Gen Z kid that the internet seems to incessantly make fun of, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
But my kids,
I mean, we did it for 2 years at the end of every show.
Right. But that they don't fit into that, and it's a point of pride where, like, people come up to me and go, your kids aren't normal,
right?
in a good way,
in all the best ways. Yeah.
And so and neither one of them fit into that, and I could not appreciate that more. I could not appreciate the fact that not only are they so solid in who they are as people, and there's no questioning that for them. Like, people go their whole lives going, who am I? What do I like? What do I do? Their confidence level's exactly where it needs to be. It's not overabundant where you become a problem, and it's not underabundant where you become a problem. You know, and it's so, as even tempered as they are, and as confident as they are as growing adults, it is very, very cool to see that they did not fall into the being a TikTok kid, being an idiot, being somebody who only views their entire personality as it is viewed by what TikTok would think of them, or what their viewing audience would think of them, or trying to be some type of character.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense from either of them that there was an ounce of seeking validation through some performative measure or online persona in any way, shape, or form. So for me, that was really refreshing and also very unusual. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is pretty cool. But it's cool. It's cool seeing kiddo grow up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a fan. Even though
Good.
every time I see them, both your children, and they're older, it's a reflection of how old I've gotten. Like, oh, I don't like that at all. But no, it was a good time. So,
well, and to add on to this, with Kate and Wiley specifically, Wiley has kind of set a tone of like he's just mature, and he always apparently has been after talking to his parents, and he's just got a real solid head on his shoulders.
mm-hmm.
But there's a good temperament to him that seems to be also not performative, that his temperament is not just for me, so that I look at him and view him in a different way, that this is who he is at his core. And I got a taste of that, and a real strong understanding of who he was when they came over. Like, they're in an unfortunate situation where Wiley's parents have had to take on a responsibility that does not belong to them. So on New Year's, they had to basically they're fostering Wiley's cousin's youngest child, who is like 2 years old. And this kid had to have a wellness check because he was undernourished, and he was only 17.
Yeah.
Right, 17 pounds, and apparently mom was doing the cocaine while she was breastfeeding him. And so he was cocaine addicted and also could not eat. He never learned how, and he doesn't talk. He only says very few words. He actually signs a little bit, but and they, Wiley's parents are a little older. Like, his mom's a little older than me, and his dad is considerably older and not in great health, diabetes and stuff, and it had some hard living. He's kind of a grumpy old man. But mom works nights at Sacred Heart in Spokane as a nurse, and dad stays at home, retired. And so they've kind of they have no other family. So this 2-year-old was thrust on these people. And they said yes, obviously, because the kid had nowhere else to go. And they're really great people, but they just don't really have the bandwidth to really handle this situation. Right. So Kate and Wiley have kind of stepped up, and they are actually over, when they're not working, they're over at their house helping out with this little boy. And this little boy is the sweetest thing in the world, and he's really attached himself to Kate and to Wiley in kind of a caretaker aspect, right? And so this has been going on since New Year's, and they'll go over there, 3, 4, 5 times a week to go hang out with Chancellor. And one night they decided to take him out of the house and bring him over to our house. And so we were having dinner, and they brought him over, and sweet little boy, he's got a feeding tube, and then when it's time to eat, they throw a backpack on him with some food that just kind of goes in, and that's his meal time. He doesn't really like eating solid food of any kind. But he's already gained some weight and bright-eyed. So
unfortunately,
now,
everything with that child is up his nose. Still?
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, cocaine baby jokes. Yeah, we make quite a few of those. But we're sitting there, and everyone's just kind of interacting with him, and he's loving being there, playing with the dogs, and just a sweet, good-hearted kid. And they brought over his little push bike, and he's push biking around our house. And first of all, I saw my wife instantly melt into grandmotherhood like I never expected. I thought it would be a little bit harder of a push, but man, she got launched with this. And Kate and Wiley, the way that they interacted with taking care of him, with changing diapers, with handling him, I was watching like a hawk. And we're sitting down to eat, and the Chancellor's sitting with us, and he gets kind of fussy, not like overly fussy. He just wants to get up and move about. And normally, in most instances, it's the mom who typically just instinctively pops up with the kid and kind of waters around and helps But that wasn't the case.
Mhm.
Wiley popped up without even thinking about it. Kate got to eat her hot meal, and he did it. He wandered around making sure the kid wasn't, going up the stairs or going, in places he shouldn't, and just followed him around. And then would come over and grab a bite to eat, and then keep doing that. And that really showed character to me. It really showed something that I really appreciated in him, and the way that he was gentle with him, and that he played with him, and that there was a genuineness to how he conducted himself around this kid. He loved him, and there was softness, but there's a soft strength to him that I really appreciate. And so it was really telling to watch them on how they're going to be parents with just this situation. And it's good practice, but it is something that was a barometer for the future, that I can be able to look at these two and go, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's something that, I think my mom had for me and Aaron, that she could look at us and go, they're going to be okay. Aaron's parents, not so much. As you know, it took them a little while to come around to thinking that we actually had our shit together. But it was something that it was interesting to view from this side of the fence, and be able to look at my daughter and her future and go, okay, they're going to be all right. They're going to be okay.
And he's a big fan of you too, which is important, that you like your significant other's parents. That's good news,
Yeah, he's great. We have a good time together. The guy Wiley thinks I'm probably the funniest guy on the planet, because I constantly am making faces and making jokes at my family's expense, and he's in on the joke, and he's like, "Yeah, they're nuts, but they're my favorite kind of nuts." So, but yeah, he thinks I'm super funny, but we have a good time. Like, he's a solid guy. So I'm glad you got to experience that, and I'm glad that they got to experience coming down to see you. We were watching like hawks on the Life 360 app. We knew everywhere they were at the whole time. We're giving each other, oh, they're at the Mob Museum now. Oh, they're going there. They even went by the tattoo shop that I work at down there, and actually went by and said hi to Caps and Brittany, and then just to say hi, and that was pretty cool. I hit up Caps, and he goes, "I knew that was your daughter the minute she walked in the door." And I was like, "Wow, all right." So, but that was cool. So, but they came back on Sunday.
Yeah.
Which was the Great American Holiday.
Oh yeah, Super Bowl happened on Sunday.
It certainly did.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you watch it? I didn't even ask. I didn't think you would. So, yeah. What was your reasoning for? Because I'll admit we did, and it was, we didn't go to a Super Bowl party. We didn't make a big deal of it. Aaron made some like smoked skillet cheese dip thing that was really good, but outside of that, we just kind of hung out.
Yeah, for closing in on a year now, I've reduced my digital subscriptions for entertainment intake from all to one. And I don't have television. I didn't watch any football this season. I tried really hard to opt out of playing fantasy football for the first time in like 10 or 11 years. And they couldn't find a backfill for me. So I kind of just like went through the motions like, it's a name that did good last year. I'll auto set my lineup so I don't have any missing pieces and try to go for it. Wasn't really connected to football at all this year. And most importantly, could kind of care less about the two teams that wound up going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So for me, there was like very little stakes in the game at all. I don't know the artist that was supposed to do the halftime show. I have not heard a single one of his or her songs. I later learned they did the entire halftime show in Spanish, which I'm sure was a political statement.
Certainly was, yeah.
Like whatever, but I just woke up not giving a shit because I didn't give a shit all year. So for me, it was pretty easy to be like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna clean up the house. I'm gonna work with some music pieces I've been writing and working on, and what else did I do? I watched the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movie.
Oh, cool.
I
Yeah, that's good.
put my phone on silent because I'm on every text thread you can imagine where people are hurling Super Bowl insults and gifts at one another, and I just did not care. So
Yeah.
no, I didn't watch any of it. I didn't watch any of the Super Bowl commercials. I just didn't
Yeah.
really care. Yeah.
We watch it, and you know that I'm not a football guy.
Yeah.
I didn't watch I haven't watched a football game because I wanted to in 20 years. I just
Sure.
don't care. If it's on, I'll go. I know the rules. I'll go. Oh, cool. Nice play, whatever. But I don't have a team. I don't
Mhm.
care. And football's never been my thing. Now that being said, prior to the Kaepernick debacle and the kneeling and stuff, my wife was a diehard Seahawks fan,
Mhm.
and to the point where I would hide in the room because she was screaming at the TV 90% of the time.
Sure.
But I am not a football guy. But I like food, and so the Super Bowl brings fun food, and that's
does.
typically why I go in for that. But in this particular case, we did watch it, and it was more for the and I'll admit we were a part of it. More for the political aspect of having it on to turn it off during the halftime show to go watch the other dumb halftime show, which was, and I hate that everyone's like, it was so good. I was like, it was not. It was
No.
terrible. There were 4 people three of which I'd never heard of.
Mhm.
And I don't think very many other people had either. And then Kid Rock doing a very sloppy show to a room full of people. I see what they were trying to do as a political statement, and it had an impact. Apparently, the Super Bowl lost half of its viewership during the Super Bowl halftime show. Now, I understand why they were doing it, in protest to them consistently trying to aggravate its base by taking on anti-American concepts for its entertainment portion of the Super Bowl, which is what it should be. It should be guys singing a song and maybe a little bit of Americana added to it. Doesn't have to be overly patriotic, but don't be anti-patriotic, which is what it's been doing since basically the Kaepernick era.
Mhm.
And it's not good. And so I think it was basically the people of the country telling them, hey, shape up if you want our money. Like, you took a big hit during the Kaepernick era. Do you want it again?
Right.
And kind of speaking with their dollars. And that's kind of how we show corporations what we want from them is by speaking with our dollars. And that's kind of what they were doing. So we did that. We watched the TPUSA one, and I don't know, I was unimpressed with that one as well. But
you know what's always an excellent supplement every year for the halftime show?
the Puppy Bowl.
The Puppy Bowl.
Yeah.
The Puppy Bowl's amazing. Like, if for those that are unawares and you're listening or watching this, you can flip over to, I don't remember what channel. I think it's Discovery or something like that.
Animal Planet.
Animal Planet. That's probably the one. And they put adorable puppies inside of a little playpen, and then on the bottom of the playpen, there's like a laminate that makes it look like a football field, and the dogs just run around and paw at each other and play for the exact duration of the halftime show. And it's just cute little dogs with no goal in mind whatsoever, and it's amazing every time you flip over to it. And I think that's the way to win the halftime show going forward, is just watch cute dogs playing around in a pen for like 11 and a half minutes or however long the thing is. It's great every time. That's my answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Just little puppy dogs. Answer.
That's all they're doing. It's just being dogs.
I'll never say no to watching puppies do anything. Yeah. I'm such a dog guy. So, but the impact of the Super Bowl, which was a trouncing, by the way, I'm sure you've probably heard and seen the highlights that it was.
I didn't even watch the highlights. I mean, I heard the box score breakdown, field goal, punt, 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 field goal, punt, punt, punt. So I was like, that doesn't sound like a very entertaining game for the best product the NFL can put on the field at the end of a season. But, you know, que sera.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a heavy-handed win and very dominated by Seattle. So the New England didn't stand a chance the entire time. So that being said, though, there's something more that is actually more important that involves the Seahawks and other. The Seahawks are only a small piece of, but a significant kind of concept to what is going on in King County and the state of Washington. And we're going to rail on Washington again.
Yeah.
Because, we try to steer away from this topic because it feels like we're crapping on Washington as often. Both of us having been residents there for long periods of time and having watched it circle the drain and got out right before it really started going bad, but kind of read the writing on the wall. We have watched from a distance from our elected states that we had moved to, whether it be Idaho or Nevada, and have always kept an eye on it because we still have friends and family in the area. Right. So like we still kind of pay attention to what's going on over there. And as we do, there's no sign for help. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. It's crumbling all around, and the proverbial frogs in the pot don't seem to get it. And we're, as much as we scream from the rooftops, hey, get out before you can't, seems to fall on deaf ears. Yeah. But there has been a significant legislative push in this legislative cycle that I'd love for you to expand upon, because it involves the Seahawks or any other organization that has a monetary, tag on it that is going to really affect the economy more so than anything has in recent years, which is hard to say, but it's like unbelievable that we have to say that. Yeah. But that this is going to have more impact than a lot of things coming down the pike. What is that? What is this thing?
Well, I'm gonna try and start by saying a couple things. One, this will be a little long-winded. Two, I'm gonna lather you up, the listener, and get you super pissed before I get into what's going on. And then three, I'm gonna try and do this with the most education and unbiased, and then kind of unpack what I think this is going to turn into. And that's where everyone can kind of start the discussion on like whether I'm off my rocker or not. So we're going to lead, before I get into lathering people up, with letting California State catch a couple strays. Speaking of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It was played in San Francisco, which is another reason I kind of didn't want to watch it. It's like, as a 49ers fan, you don't want to watch the fucking Seahawks win the Super Bowl in your home stadium,
Fair enough. I have a couple of other friends who have the same feeling.
Just like, Josh, I just don't.
Josh Roop was furious.
Yeah, like, I'm going to watch this sacrilege. Here's what I heard. I don't know if this is true, but here's where I'm going to let California catch a stray. Using Sam Darnold, the quarterback of the Seahawks, as the example, based on his annual salary and the fact that he spent, as all players of the Super Bowl, 7 days in California State before going to work on California soil, and whatever the income taxes aggregated down to his time there, plus the jock tax that they have, it actually, they're saying, cost Sam Darnold $179,000 to play the Super Bowl in California. It cost him to go to the game because of the way that they tax the workers down there. So I had to fire a couple strays off at California. Like, well done, guys.
Deservedly.
That's amazing, considering Chevron just pulled out and closed down refineries along with two other refinery outfits.
And Inslee, it's like, no big deal. I don't care when he was offered a response.
Oh, Newsom, Newsom was just like, yeah, whatever. I don't have time for this. And it's like, you don't have time for this, but your constituents are actively staring at $7 a gallon, and it's likely to go to 10.
Yeah.
That's absurd. So well done, California. That's keep on tripling and quadrupling down. So let's talk about that. I want to start with a little bit of a history lesson if you're a Washington resident. Do you remember while Washington voters have approved $30 car tabs 3 whole times since 1999, that they currently don't enjoy $30 car tabs because the Washington State Supreme Court has repeatedly declared the voter initiatives unconstitutional? Super fun. I want you guys to stew on this. This is exactly what happened in the last attempt that this went through, which was Initiative 976. This was back in 2019. Voter approval, super high. This last one was like 53% voted to cap most all vehicle registrations, not all, but most, at $30 and repeal various state and local transportation fees. They were really taking shots at WASDOT for the for what it's worth. They've been nickel and diming the constituents there. Anyhow, the long story short is the court struck it down in October the following year for 2 reasons. One, it's a single subject rule, stuff that you and I rail on in the federal government a lot. They said it violates the state's constitutional requirement that ballot measures focus on only one topic, and it combined fee caps with the requirement for Sound Transit to retire bonds early. So they're like, you can't slide extra stuff in there. Our state constitution doesn't allow that. This is important for later on in my little story. Anyhow, it was shut down. The second reason was misleading title. So 8 of the 9 justices found that ballot was deceptive and misleading. That's a quote. Because they didn't clearly state the measure would eliminate previously voter-approved charges. So current situation. This is part of the new legislative stuff I'm going to pick on before I get to the real meat and potatoes. Because the initiative was voided, let's fast forward from 2020 when that ruling came in to 2026. Vehicle registration fees remain super high. And as of the beginning of this month, lawmakers are now considering Senate Bill 6176, which is a bill that will now increase penalties for the estimated, are you guys pissed off about the $30 car tabs? Ready? Estimated 600,000 drivers with expired tabs. The voter base is so pissed that they just stopped registering their cars. So, while it's on topic, we're going to penalize you for that. So, guess what? Increased penalties for the estimated 600,000 drivers with expired tabs are now going to allow police to ticket parked cars with old tags. So, as of today, this morning, 6176 proposes a tiered penalty system aimed at the over 600,000 drivers with expired car tabs. The bill significantly expands enforcement by allowing authorities to ticket parked vehicles and not those actively being driven. Here's the tier structure. The bill establishes fines based on the length of expiration from $150 for 2 months or less to $248 for more than 2 months to $530 for specific registration violations or initial failure to register a vehicle. Then they expand on it. This is as advertised. This isn't suggestive. Parked vehicle citations. Officers can issue tickets to unoccupied vehicles on public rights of way, public property, or even private parking facilities.
What?
Impoundment. The bill affirms the current authority to impound vehicles parked on public streets if the registration has been expired for more than 45 days. And then severe penalties. This is where things get real fun. It also highlights, this is Senate Bill 6176 still, aggressive penalties for residents who register vehicles in other states like Montana or Oregon to avoid Washington high fees. Oh, you voted it down 3 straight times since 1999? Well, not only do we not care, but here's the expanded penalties for how much you're going to pay for not playing ball. Jail time of up to 364 days for a gross misdemeanor, so not a full year. Mandatory fines. $529 is the base plus $1,000 penalty, and repeat offenses up to $5,000 per hit. And back taxes. Offenders are required to pay all delinquent taxes and fees owed to the state of Washington during that period, even if your shit's registered in Montana. The bill passed the Senate Transportation Committee on February 5. and is currently awaiting for action in the Senate Rules Committee. So let's percolate on that for a minute, because that's not even what I wanted to talk about tonight. That's the type of legislation where they're like, oh, that reminds me, not only fuck you, not only are we going to screw due diligence, we're going to take a bite out of democracy while we're doing it. That reminds us we need to penalize you for back taxes for not registering your car, because we know, at least by our computer count, 600,000 of you have not re-registered your cars, in opposition to the fact that we continuously push out 53% of the voting in this last round. It was much higher the time before that. It was in the mid 60 percentile range. That's how much they don't care. They don't give a shit about what you vote for there. And that's a really small example. So now that you're pissed, put your listening ears on. This month, an effort to address a projected $12 to $16 billion shortfall. The debate over Washington's proposed millionaire tax.
Guys.
Yeah, this is Washington State right now. So Senate Bill 6346 and House Bill 2724. So remember those. SB 6346 and HB 2724. The debate on all this millionaire tax stuff, which is what these two are working toward, has super intensified. So I'm going to give you the essentials. I'm going to try and keep my bias out of this. We'll start with the essentials. The levy essentially is a 9.9% tax on individual annual income exceeding $1 million. The timeline, if passed, means it starts January 1st, 2028, with the first payments due in April of the following year in 2029. So here's the sweetener. This is the sugar for this. Why would you want this? To gain support, the bill includes the tax relief, such as eliminating all sales tax on hygiene products, shampoos, soaps, things of that nature, and exempting small businesses that gross under $250,000 from the B&O tax, not federal. The goal, supporters are going to argue, is that it fixes a regressive system where the bottom 20% of your earners are paying around 14% of their income in taxes, while the top 1% only pay 4%. I am not going to unredact what I make annualized in my own personal work, but I can tell you a few factoids. One, I make less than $1 million a year by a wide margin. Two, I am not in the bottom 20% of earners from Washington State. And three, my tax bracket's already 24%. And I just filed my taxes 11 days ago. So
yeah,
this is not going to help you in middle income situations for Washington earners, by the way. So chew on that for a minute. Here's how your opposition is going to get screwed. So already the reason that this is being argued, critics like myself, Republican lawmakers in that state are arguing the Democratic majority is using legislative tomfoolery, more or less, to prevent public challenge. Here's how they can do that. What's important? The emergency clause in both of these bills is labeled as emergency legislation. So in Washington, if something is labeled emergency legislation, this designation prevents citizens from filing a referendum to suspend the law and put it to public vote. And I just covered why your public vote doesn't matter anyway, but let's go on. Under Washington State Constitution today, citizens can gather signatures to put a recently passed law into a referendum, which will suspend the law until voters decide in a voting block. However, emergency laws, as this one is designated, those are deemed necessary for the immediate support of government and are completely exempted from that process. That's one. Two, and this is what a lot of people are saying is the poison pill, is this contains a null and void clause. Any part of the tax that's struck down in court on this entire act, including popular tax cuts for small businesses and families, automatically canceled the entire thing. So if you vote down the $1 million millionaire tax or whatever, it's also going to remove their provisions for tax-free soap and shampoo and some of the government subsidized support that they're putting in there, which is around the relief, tax relief they're going to put in, right? So this is
they're
where
anchoring it to, they're anchoring it to that
100%.
in order for,
So if you that sugar I mentioned, if you're buying in on that, you lose that, and that's where they're trying to glide this through. So the 2024 trap about the way that they put this together is that Initiative 2111 back then banned income taxes completely for the state level. However, because lawmakers passed it themselves, rather than letting it go to a ballot, they can now repeal or bypass it with a simple majority instead of a 2/3 vote. Well, nobody's going to argue banning a tax-free state, but now that that rule is codified, here's the kicker. 3 weeks ago, House Democrats lowered the threshold to end the floor debate from a 2/3 supermajority to a simple majority, allowing the majority to pull the plug on opposition speeches and force a vote internally more quickly because of that poison pill loophole and the 2024 precedent. So the next hurdle, since this is already passed all the way through the Senate Ways and Means Committee, yesterday it was headed to the Senate Rules Committee. They got laughed out of the room on that one. So when this passes, not if, I'm just going to say when this passes, the tax is almost certainly going to face a Supreme Court challenge over whether it violates the state's constitutional requirement that the taxes be uniform and no more incremental than 1% year over year. And if the referendum is blocked, opponents can still launch a full initiative campaign to repeal the law, but it requires a shit ton of time, a way higher signature count, a whole bunch of money for it, and you got to break through the Democratic wall. So why would any of this matter if we enjoy some tax benefits and none of us are millionaires? Because this also gives them the ability to lower that threshold from $1 million at whim and without opposition. That's the structure. That's the four-pronged pillar that they've built in this legislative bullshit. So sure, after 2029, when things are going pretty good, and well, maybe we lower that shit down another $500,000. What do you think that's going to do to small businesses or earners that are within small businesses? And I would consider small business $0 to $2 million annualized.
Yeah.
That's absurd. So
yeah,
we're going to get a vote next week on it. I assume it'll slide through. It's going to continue to face a shit ton of massive public pushback. And as of this morning, there were 61,000 people officially signed in to oppose the bill for its initial hearing. But it's going to slide through both chambers, and then it's likely to face immediate legal challenges. But they have to get it on Washington's constitutionality, which means the only thing they have to beat is a 1939 precedent that says the uniform tax standard can't exceed more than 1%. And if it doesn't have enough to beat that, then do whatever the fuck they want, including lower that $1 million threshold per earner anywhere in Washington state. This is bananas.
Yeah, they have rigged it so that they basically have carte blanche to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and the voters really have zero say. And if they try to say anything, it doesn't matter.
They've had no say since 1999. If you look at the tiny little car tab tax thing, which they're now remembering and introducing new penalties for you for abstaining from that.
This is the democracy that all you Washingtonians have been throwing, pitching signs and pitchforks about, right? This is the democracy you were looking for, because this is totalitarianism. This is insanity.
Is that not crazy?
This is crazy. Let's just even remove all the stuff you just said. Let's just say that they never ever decide to lower it, to start to pull tax revenue out of small businesses even further, like giving themselves the leeway to do that. Let's just say they stick to their word and it's only $1 million and up, right? Well, what is that going to do to the economy in the area? Because what large organization, business model of any kind is going to stick around? They're all going to move out of your state, every single one of them. So if you have, like, let's say Google, Nintendo, any of the sports organizations, if it costs too much to play in your sport because you're a millionaire or above in the state that you currently play in, they're going to move the teams to areas that are more beneficial financially for them. So you're going to lose all the revenue that you get in from the Mariners and from the Seahawks and from the hockey team. They're all going to move out. Plus, then you've got all of the tech organizations from Google on down, from Amazon on down, from Starbucks on down. All of the major corporations that are in that area are going to start looking for greener grasses if they cannot afford to operate there.
Well, and here's where I'm going to slide in with a little conspiracy theory on this. What I read was annual income exceeding $1 million. That did not say earned income. That said annual income. So I wonder, and I don't know if this is true or not, but let's say you have a retirement fund that's collecting year over year interest and you're earning off of that. And then you have the sum total of the earnings aggregated for a year plus what your work salary might look like, including non-taxable items and any other assets that could be passively generating. Example, somebody with $600,000-$700,000 in a 401k making $175,000 a year from some desk job in middle management, plus collecting rent on a multi-tenant property like a small apartment building or someplace on the other side of the state. Does that mean if they exceed $1 million in aggregate that they're also going to get an additional 9.9 tax just beginning in 2028? I don't know the answer to that, but that sounds creepy because that means it's not just the guy that gets $1 million per year. That's all assets, including to equate annual income at or exceeding $1 million, the way I read it. Now, I don't know if that's true, but still, that sets the bar even lower to the exact point that you just made, that all the businesses, all the executives, everybody's going to bounce out of there. This is absurd, man. This is crazy. Yeah. Like, I can't, and the reason I went so long-winded is I think the details on this thing matter, but we're already locked up and passed through in today's session. It's February 10 when we record this. So we're expecting 5 to 7 days before this just gets shoehorned through. And the last great hope is that people start filing lawsuits and get it to a Supreme Court level before, so that they can at least address it. Because they'll tie that shit up in litigation like they did with the car tabs. And this is their reckless disregard for voters. The car tabs is an example that precedes pandemic era. Like that was the last of the 3 times they tried was in 1999. And all 3 were voted in successfully and shot down. So this has been going on for a long, long, long time. And this is just the most egregious recent act of Washington doing this. Holy shit, man.
Well, and, you know, we've talked about it numerous times before, but I was saying in 2018 and 2019 that I wanted to get out of there for my, like, all pre-COVID stuff. I wanted to get out of there because I saw the writing on the wall that they were going to turn Seattle into the tech Detroit by way of overtaxing and overregulating its people and its small businesses, and that it was on a trajectory that I could foresee was going to be very bad. But even this stuff is so beyond even what I could have imagined that, I mean, they are putting a turbo on this and accelerating it to a point that there's no way out of this. If you end up implementing this, you can't reverse it. You can't put a stop to it. You can't then go, oh, oops, we made a mistake. Let's back this train up. You can't do it. So Washington, for the foreseeable future, the state of Washington is going to become unlivable, especially on the western side of it. But
it's the California playbook all over again. Because where's the gas tax going? Where's the sugar tax going? Where's all the taxes for the transpo fees and all the roads they've turned into toll roads? Where's all this money going that you still have to fight a $12 to $16 billion deficit with the introduction of a state tax, cleverly disguised as today it's a millionaire tax, but the way we've stacked the infrastructure allows us to change that carte blanche. And to be honest, man, as far as the small business guy's concerned, you know, the under 1 million or, you know, under $250,000 guy, if that exists with how much it costs to survive in that state on paper.
Whatever's left after they closed most of them down the COVID nonsense.
They can still find a way to get you. Remember, do you know any small business owners that may or may not have been impacted by something called non-essential employee during the pandemic?
Maybe 1 or 2.
One or 2? Yeah. Do you have any personal familiarity with that? Like
100%.
Point in case, dude. Like they'll find a way to get you. Like even if you don't qualify on this one, they're still gonna find a way to raise the rates at the location that you're paying commercial real estate into, like or something like this. So
the nefarious nature of the state of Washington's government, and specifically King County and Seattle, they're the ones driving most of this. But like for instance, during the pandemic, like 10 years prior to the pandemic, we implemented licensing for the tattoo industry, and it was to get ahead of them, because when the government gets involved in regulating your industry, they tend to not do a good job because they don't understand it, specifically ours. So a group of people got together, and they weren't probably the best group of people to do this, because A, they weren't smart enough, and B, there was a lot of personal interest that they were going to try to eliminate competition through regulation. But a group of people got together to go down and start writing legislation to create a licensing program in the state of Washington that was supposed to legitimize shops and tattoo artists in the area.
Mhm.
When they did that, they worked with the legislator, and they missed a bunch of stuff that should have been in there, like temporary licensing and other things, but I digress. Anyway, the point is that they were going to implement a $250 fee for licensing fee that was an annual fee, and then also a $350 yearly location fee for the shop owner to have the shop, which we ho-hummed about, but thought, well, maybe this will eliminate some of the non-professionals and the scratchers in the area that if you're not licensed you can get in trouble. Well, there was no teeth to that law for that, so they weren't at all there was no prosecutory
There's no
implement
teeth.
at all.
Right.
Right.
No penalties.
So
Yep.
no penalties at all for that. So that was a big flub. The other flub is they didn't have any type of testing. So if you or my daughter or anybody wanted to be a licensed tattoo artist in the state of Washington, you just had to pay the money and fill it out.
Right.
So it turned out it was just a revenue grab.
That's what they did, by the way, exactly what they did with the extended background checks for gun stuff. They said you have to take a class, never specified what class that was. So people were like, are you listening to the words that I'm saying at the gun store? And you're like, yes. And they're like, legally, I'm here to tell you to be safe. Can you agree that that's a good practice? Yeah. Then you've graduated the gun class, and they signed the gun class, and like, then you qualify for same shit. So they're renowned for doing these cash grabs. Yeah.
Exactly. So then, but the point is that, and what was written into the legislation is that you would have this $250 annual fee for your licensing, right? And at the end of 10 years, once they've collected enough revenue and built the system up and had their two guys who went to the 700 plus tattoo shops in the state of Washington to do their clipboard checks, that's what it paid for, because there's nothing else really that it pays for if you really think about it. It was just basically these two guys. And I mean, this is millions upon millions of dollars with the amount of tattooers in the state of Washington. So, but after 10 years, what they were told, this circle of body art professionals that tried to that tried to write this legislation poorly, but they tried to write this legislation. They were guaranteed that what would happen is that after the 10-year mark, it would reduce. That they would go down to $150 or less. So that being said, right smack dab in the middle of the shutdown, which was a 4-month period, in that 10-year mark came up. Now, not only was the offices for the licensing department shut down, so you couldn't reach them to make your payments, but they were still charging you late fees.
Oh, sure.
Because you couldn't get to them, but they were still charging you late fees because you didn't pay
you weren't allowed out of the house. Even if you snuck out, the office was closed and you couldn't make the payment. And still, they found a way.
No one was even there to operate it online.
Yeah,
you couldn't do it. So, but they were like, "Too bad, so sad."
You missed the federal deadline, man. You owe fees and all. Yeah. Oh, you bet.
So, but to add insult to injury,
local deadline, not federal. Go on.
The 10-year marker came up, and what did they do in the middle of the time frame that no one had worked for months? What do you think they did? The state of Washington.
I imagine they probably snap renewed another 10 years to push that out and continued back charging people on the same scale.
Worse, they raised it.
Oh, they raised it. Sure.
Yeah, they raised it to $350 a year. So now you've got a bunch of people who are backed up on these payments because they can't make them. But on top of that, we're actually raising it, even though we promised that we. So this is the tenor of Washingtonian politics. This is the tenor of how they operate. They Trojan horse you, or they will just straight up give you the bird and say, "We're going to do what we're going to do, regardless of what you think, because we know better than you."
The best logic description I've come to for Washington politics is the fact that for the people in the environment, they have turned having plastic straws and paper wrappers into having paper straws nested inside of plastic wrappers.
Yes, that is the best analogy you could. I mean, in a
Which
nutshell,
they've literally done.
Washingtonian politics in a nutshell. Yeah,
Scary business,
I mean, this
man.
once again, and we've both done this numerous times. We implore you, if you are in that state, start making an exit strategy.
Just leave.
Because
Just go.
Just leave. Get out. Like, pack your family up, find a job somewhere else, and move anywhere else. At this point, it doesn't even really matter. As long as you're out of those 3 coastal states, but specifically Washington and California. Oregon's not much better, but get out. Go a little inland. Go anywhere else. Anywhere else. Show them with your pocketbook.
Oregon's trying to eliminate the ability to go deer and elk hunting. You're going to make that against state law.
Not surprising.
Which means every human being that does not live in Portland or Beaverton is going to be pissed at that, because that's who it's going to affect, not anybody living in those cities. I don't think a single politician living in those 2 cities in Oregon State have ever even seen a deer or an elk in their neighborhood. So it's not a pressing need to save them in some respect, or for whatever reasons that they're trying to put this up. It's getting nutty, dude. It's getting comically nutty, where like you can completely shut out by changing a debate rule at the beginning of this year, lowering the threshold to end floor debate from a 2/3 supermajority to a simple majority. No, you don't even have the precedence now to speak in opposition to what we're about to pass through. That's what that means. That's exactly what that means. Like, you guys have been dogmatically shitting on due diligence. Why not take a bite out of democracy while you're at it? This is where they're at. And most of this has happened since January of this year. So, it's a bit late to speak up and get crazy about it. And there are some good journalists coming out of Washington that are trying their best. But boy, the more, because I was telling you in the pre-show, the more I read about stuff like this and really tear it apart, the angrier I get at the fact that they're just getting away with it. They just get away with it. So time to go.
But you get what you vote for, and if you vote for these people and you put them in office, this is what they're going to do to your lives. And why it's important to vote in local elections primarily, but your state people really need to be vetted. Like, you need to understand that they're not going to look at you in the face and tell you what they're really going to do.
Plus, it's mostly going to attack it directly, immediately and directly. It will attack most of the principal private donation backs coming out of Washington State that put these people in office.
Yeah.
That's the first hand they're going to bite, is the one that fed them. And then the rest is just kind of carte blanche act. That, to me, that's the funniest part, is it's like, not only did you want this bad enough to donate, you fall within the earnings bracket of the people they're going to kill first. And this is only a 9.9%. So I imagine that's on top of the original tax state, like federal tax code. You're still going to pay whatever you pay to the feds. Now you get to pay an extra for the state on top of all that stuff, just because you're that same person.
If only we could look back in history and see a system of government that uses people to get what they want, and then immediately those are the people that they eliminate first.
Yeah, that line of thought would be a great leap forward.
But like, I mean, we're dealing with, highly educated Washingtonian academics here that seem to romanticize exactly what we're talking about, and now they're getting exactly what they deserve. You know, my problem is with the people who did not vote for this, that need to get out, and that's the only strategy. You're not saving this ship.
Yep.
There's no way you're going to turn this tide.
Mm-mm.
They have taken capture. Your votes do not matter. I would be. It's almost comical to say, because it seems so absurd. But in this trajectory, do you see it out of the idea of recognition of any kind, that at some point they just eliminate voting in the state of Washington? Because why does it matter? Like, is that too far down the pike? Is that too absurdist to say that? Or would, like, oh, the Constitution, we have decided, no longer matters for the state of Washington's Constitution, and also really, we're just going to appoint from this point on your vote. We're eliminating the vote because it is more problematic than it is good for the people. They've gone so far into the communism kind of spectrum of things that it seems like an absurd thought experiment. But the experiments that we're looking at right now that they're putting into the legislative process would seem absurd even a year or two ago.
No,
I
don't think so. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. A year ago, I would have said something different. But
yeah,
here's why. Today's a perfect example of this. Minutes before the show, I sent it to you. I don't think you had a chance to watch it yet. Today, I watched a quote from somebody from the World Economic Forum suggesting that because human beings have too much of a problem eating meat, and if we stop eating cows, then we'll save the environment, that we could attempt human engineering. These are words he used, human engineering. Example he used is there's a tick, a Lone Star tick, that when it bites you, it produces a chemical reaction in your body where you become allergic to meat. So we could simply just try that and force people in to stop eating meat. And the justification is because they don't have enough self-control themselves to do it for themselves. That came out as a suggestion in the World Economic Forum on a completely different topic that's openly discussed with other human beings as a potential solution to an artificial problem in this person's mind. So going back to Washington, no, I don't see that being far-fetched at all, man.
Yeah. I wish it was. I wish I was like reaching. I wish it was something that I thought was like, oh, that's so absurd.
That's
to
an
even
early
think
bet.
that.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It almost feels like an inevitability. Yeah.
Because I mean, they've already told them that their vote doesn't matter. So at this point, what's the point of just
a lot?
Yeah, improving it. So like, what's the difference? Like, why even bother with the rigmarole of spending the money and having everybody go into their local voting, establishments to even?
You surely are not able to debate something in the House in Washington now.
Yeah,
that's a rule change. They then just pull the plug on you. They'll turn your microphone off and be like, "You don't have a voice here." What?
Yeah.
Even elected officials in the minority don't have a voice now because they can pull the plug on the opposition and force a vote more quickly.
Yeah. This is Venezuelan. This is exactly what was going on down there. So like, it's insanity, and it's literally just 15 minutes over the border from me. Honestly, you get a bunch of your kind of boomer rednecky guys that are like, let's build a wall around Washington. But that's sounding better and better as time goes on. Like, I honestly would like maybe some checkpoints at the very least, saying,
dude, the western coastal United States, you could damn near put a wall up. Like,
yeah.
I deal with a lot of runoff from California's decision making in a bunch of different ways, where I live, economically, socially, politically. And I complained earlier about that gas stuff. That's going to hit home, those gas price hikes, because most of the state that I live in is survived by the CalNev pipeline for fuel, which means we have to start sourcing fuel from elsewhere. If Californians are fighting each other for $10 a gallon, you know, that's the source of the fuel principally that we get in my neck of the woods.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with our state legislative process at all. In fact, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there would be some formal suit around that because they've entered covenants on supply and demand with stuff like that. So if that's threatened, I presume that there will be some sort of action. But at the end of the day, this is crazy, dude. And we're picking on Washington again, but it's not without cause. This is crazy. And it's just the most recent example of crazy.
When they keep like fumbling so poorly, like it's almost impossible not to kind of put the microscope back on them. It's, you know, we can't help but look, you know, over there and just go, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you doing that? And so, once, you know, we apologize for constantly railing on Washington, but Washington, get your shit together.
Yeah.
You know, and
sadly, it's not the majority of the people that live there. It's the minority of very, very powerful, very ensconced people that do live there.
What's the gas prices in Nevada right now?
Oh, $3.05 right now.
Okay. We're between 219 and 249 somewhere over in that realm in Idaho right now, depending on where you're at. If you're at State Line, it's 219. If you're here, which is funny because everyone from Washington are filling
to Idaho to
we have this local young girl named Lily who does her own investigative journalism.
Was it you that sent me that?
The Inverness, Idaho girl?
Yeah. I watched that. That was pretty good.
Where they're like she goes over the border and all of their gas stations right over the border are all empty.
Yeah.
And all the Washington plates that are in Idaho right now, which is why I'm talking about like checkpoints and such. But that being said, man, you know, the Super Bowl kind of brought all of this into play for me because I think I saw Brandy Cruz talking about the Seahawks getting sold and moving out of the area because it's just too expensive for them to be there, right? So, but the other thing about the Super Bowl, and this kind of takes us into our conspiracy corner. So don your cap because
all right, all personal and professional credibility is laid aside when we have tinfoil hats on. So.
Yes. So, this one of the things you said that you didn't with your non-viewing of the Super Bowl, you didn't watch the commercials.
Correct.
And the commercials tend to be the highlight for any non-football fan. Enjoys the breaks more than they enjoy the game.
Yeah, you get the funny commercials.
Right, and the tear jerkers, and you know, Budweiser did a Super Americana one that everybody was happy about. Most of them were weird, most of them were off, most of them were like, there was some. What I happened to notice is that it was dominated, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it seemed as if there were one or two per break of some type of AI-based company that were advertising during the Super Bowl. So the AI market had made an enormous push with this year's Super Bowl, where I'd never seen an AI ad before for any AI-based company prior to this Super Bowl, and it was noticeable. But one of the things that really kind of sent a shockwave through all of the watchers, and me and my wife included, I looked at her, I was like, oh, that's terrible. And apparently I was nowhere near the only one, because I've seen multiple videos on this, and it has created kind of a news swell. And it was the second thing trending on Twitter was the Ring camera ad that came out, where they were launching their new feature that you could just log into, and it was framed around, you know, Fido, your beautiful puppy that might have gotten out the front door. And what it can do is it can, on the app, it can link you to everybody's webcam or their door cams, their ring cams throughout multiple neighborhoods, depending on the geo reach of your ring cam, to see if you can spot your dog on other people's ring cams.
Mm-hmm.
And this sent off alarm bells for the country with the way that they framed it. It was like, oh, well, you can find your dog. You will help you find your dog. But the overarching concept of what this actually implements and implicates is an insane breach of the Fourth Amendment and an insane breach of just personal you know what I'm talking about? Like it's just incredible that this is going to not be used for anything else. Like to suggest that this is only to find dogs is wild.
Yeah. So what I've known for a while, and I'm trying to find a way to phrase this, is essentially all these Ring cameras, which I've been mentioning for some time. And I was getting really pissy about this. I want to say probably in 2017 or 18, when companies like Xfinity, Comcast were saying, hey, look, if you're a Comcast member and you have the Comcast app on your phone, for example, and you're at the bus stop or whatever, if you're within range of any other Comcast customer that's renting one of our boxes, the provided cable box and the provided cable modem, if they have a cable modem and your phone app recognizes that you're also a customer, you can actually freely use their Wi-Fi, whether you have their password or not, because we divorce a bit of the bandwidth from every one of our users that we send the box out to or whatever. So it creates basically a floating mesh network for other users to get by on free internet. Alarm bells were like going off, and you know, for a while, this was me attacking this on a professional setting. So I had to do some serious market research and be like, hey, by the way, this is not good for privacy and security reasons, by the way. Just
right. Yeah.
And now, right now, that's their headache. But this is a deep intrusion into personal privacy should somebody break through their personal network at home in a pretty significant way, because this also allows you to freely skip interconnectivity between boxes, which is not good. So fast forward, same technology scaled out. Ring cameras now function more or less as a widespread decentralized surveillance network that they already said, I think a year ago, in one of their updates to the EULA or end user license agreement, that the purposes would be for law enforcement to freely tap in and create basically a surveillance grid for persons of interest.
Yeah.
And they would use your subscription to your Ring camera just because it's a Ring camera.
Right.
You know, and yeah. people were complaining an awful lot about, like, well, you know, the Google Home and the Alexa Dot and all that stuff, they're listening to my conversations and they're, oh, no, they're not. Of course not. They wouldn't do that. The technology has been there for some time now. And the egregious amount of personal data that's collected on you to begin with, because you have a cell phone or because you bought a new car, because cars are egregiously like reporting miles, your driving patterns, how fast a speed you hit, so they can deny claims if your car breaks down and be like, well, you were driving irresponsibly 4 months ago when you breached 81 miles an hour. There's stories like this all over the internet. These are real things that are happening. Ring cameras now functions as a widespread decentralized surveillance network, and it's not just for law enforcement. It's it is for whomever holds the keys. So really, really bad. And anyway, they're able to pull right now through requests footage from, I think it's called the Neighbors app. Is that right? For active investigations, I think it's called the Neighbors app. But they have partnerships with Flock Safety, Axon. Police can target specific locations today within a half-mile radius to request footage on demand. So today, users have to opt in to share those capabilities. Wink, wink.
Right.
But the tools, the firmware, the software are all already installed and functional to facilitate rapid evidence gathering for anything from petty crimes like package theft and burglary to more serious crimes from the eyes of the law enforcement. That's one use case. One.
Right, and those can't be turned on remotely. Those can't be
Right.
right. So let's just even from just a governmental conspiratorial net. Let's remove that for a minute. How easy are these things just to hack into, to spy on people, for creepy people
Very.
who are in that network?
Very.
Right? So now, on just a personal level, you could have stalker implications to this.
Yep.
People gathering your information to rob you because they've been watching through your webcam your schedule of when you come in and out of your house.
The types of groceries you're buying. Say the on-off switch is linked to your Alexa. It can tap into the purchasing pattern on your Amazon account. It can tag license plate numbers. It's on what you wear, how you looked on Friday night. 100%.
They will wrap this in safety as a feature because
that's what they do. That's what they've always done. Homeland Security Act, by the way. Safety.
But they'll soft roll it out to the public, such as in the movie Weapons, that horror movie that just came out this last fall.
Yeah.
That was actually a very good movie. But the whole thing is predicated on the fact that all of these kids left at the same time and went running through the neighborhood, and the Ring cameras are the only clue of what they were doing at what time, because the Ring cameras throughout the neighborhood caught all these kids running in a particular direction. Now, you don't really even think about that in the plot, but that is the kind of subtle, soft rollout that they do on this. Look, it helped them find these kids. If it wasn't for the Ring cameras, they wouldn't have ever even had a clue. They'll probably use it in the soft approach of, or the heartstring tugging approach of, basically, if your kid gets kidnapped, we can track him through these things.
This could have saved a life. This is just like LoJack's for cars and OnStar and Toyota Care and BMW Care. It's the same. It's a wild invasion of your privacy disguised as super security in case of a crisis.
Right. Or to find your loving pet now, as according to the Super Bowl commercial.
It's funny that it's taken people in 2026 to watch a Super Bowl commercial to wake up to the fact that this has been going on for a long time in a bunch of different areas besides the Ring camera. This is the latest ideation of getting what they want in 1080p or 4K, but they've been at this for some time.
So then this rolls into the bigger conspiracy of where this data is going. And then you start to talk about stuff like Palantir, and you start talking about the data collection of all of that and what it's eventually going to be used for, as far as social credit scores and being able to collect that kind of data, where they know that you've had enough carbon output, you've eaten enough meat. You've done enough of this. We're going to cut you off. You're not allowed to go anywhere. You have to stay home because you've been a naughty boy. You've overexpended. And so at some point, the implementation of that kind of structure of control needs data first. And this is where they're getting it. They're getting it from your Alexa. They're getting it from your Ring. They're getting it from your car. They're getting it from your cell phone. And if they have
the tinfoil hat on, so I can say this, they're getting it from how many of you took the shot.
Yeah. Right?
Because guess what? Medical records are not easy, or not hard to unseal or share or breach.
Right. So that being said, they can triangulate everything about you and then turn the faucet off in whatever capacity that they need to, in order to steer you, direct you, or stop you. And there's going to be mass compliance based off of that. And then you start building this in with the idea of smart cities, and you start building it into structured utopian smart cities, where all of this is all going to be built into that. And we're going along with it with glee.
Yeah, convenience. It makes me upset that people spend their time complaining about Epstein files. It makes me upset that people complain about Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. It really makes me upset to see that meanwhile, what's going on in real time are all of these technological innovations that you have no control over where that data goes from. You can opt out all you want. It does not remove the physical capability of flipping the switch on the other side and turning it back on should somebody be requested by the FBI to do so, as we've seen cell phone companies get drawn up on charges in the court of public opinion on for decades. As an example, like this goes on whether you want it to or not. And so it's like, man, try to pay attention to some of the real issues that are impacting you today. Because left, right, or center, I think we can all get behind civil liberties, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Bueller?
Bueller?
Like anyone out there? Jeez, it's a good conspiracy corner that's actually not that far of a conspiracy, to be fair.
Right.
We're seeing it in real time.
No.
So
yeah, I'm on board 100% with all of this. I think that we have I got Aaron for Christmas a battery operated ring cam, and even then, and it's due for us for security purposes.
Did you guys burn it at halftime? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. I almost went up there and chucked it off the roof. I think there needs to be a conversation about it. But the reason I did get it is because of kind of local threats that, for our activity here.
If I wasn't worried about it, I wouldn't have cameras, and you've seen mine. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yours is brilliant. Yours is closed circuit. And I would love something like that. I would love a closed circuit kind of situation. I just don't have the know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So, that's something I would absolutely love, is a closed circuit situation, and we may explore that. And
yeah, to be fair with you, dude, when the damage reveals the cost, the wiring to get that done right, it exceeds the cost of the hardware of the camera to actually perform the function. And if you're not a homeowner, you're a home renter, there may be shame on you for hanging stuff like security cameras that are not considered temporary fixtures, so you'd have to clear that with the landlord, but absolutely it'd be very easy to do. We just got to map out the way to do it right. But yeah, that's why I've abstained for as long as I have in places that I've rented, because for me, totally different lifestyle and stuff. Like for years I had to park my motorcycle directly in front of my slider in my bottom floor apartment, and I would actively watch people walk off the sidewalk, throw a leg over my bike, and take a selfie on it in my house, like open my gate, walk through it. And it's just like, man, what happens when I'm not here? You know what I mean? Right. So I get it, but yeah, totally get the desire. 100%.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a conspiracy corner for this week. That commercial caused a ripple effect that I hope puts it.
Before we move on, what was the conversation like around the people next to you that watched that in real time?
Well, the only adults in the room were me and Aaron. There was a couple of teenagers, so who were just like, "What? Who cares?" And because they live in a surveilled society, their whole lives are on camera. Yeah. So they it didn't, but they kind of took notice that Aaron and I were like pointing out that is.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. Like, did you stop to think that this could be used for nefarious purposes? In fact, its whole existence is for nefarious purposes that has been wrapped around cute puppies. Like, it's not for dogs. It's to make sure everyone knows where you're at all times. And so, like, they don't really have the same kind of knee-jerk reaction that our generation does to surveillance stuff. They don't see it as much of a problem. My kids a little bit more. Now, the two other kids that were here were Oliver's girlfriend and her sister, and so they don't have parents like Aaron and I,
Right.
who were just like constantly like, look, like the Leo meme,
Yeah.
where he's on the couch and he's pointing at the TV. That, and our kids have had to live with that their whole lives of like, do you know what that really means? And so there's been a lot of that. But yeah, for her and I, we exchanged glances and some words and going, oh, that's not good. That, like that's, and the kids kind of looked up from their phones for a minute and went, what do you mean? Like, what does that mean? And we kind of gave them a shorthand explanation of what that means without, going too far into it.
Well,
So
while I have you on this, I want to read you something that this comes from the Federal Aviation Administration's website, and I have to go there to renew my registration for drones, right? You have to register your drone every year. Just this is the new greeting message. You are accessing a U.S. government authorized information system, which includes 1, this computer, 2, this computer network, 3, all computers connected to this network, 4, all devices and storage media attached to this network or to a computer on this network, and 5, all cloud services and hosting environments supporting this information system. This information system is provided for U.S. government authorized use only. Unauthorized or improper use of the system may result in disciplinary action. You have no reasonable expectation of privacy regarding communications or data transiting or stored on this information system. At any time and for any lawful government purposes, communication between the user and this information system, data transiting to or from the system or stored on this system, is subject to monitoring, interception, and search. Any communications or data transiting or stored on this information system may be disclosed or used for any lawful government purposes at all.
oh, wow.
That's what the government throws in your face on their websites about how data like this is used across systems that interface with theirs.
Yeah.
By the way. You guys think I'm joking, go there now. Like, you can go to the FAA website, go to the drone section, and read the header on what you're interfacing with if you log into this system.
And if you think that only applies to drones, you're sorely mistaken.
That's just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. Wow. So anyway, I'm going to put a different hat on.
Good times.
Yeah.
We're having real talk tonight on the pod. Sorry, guys.
Oh, well, that was our conspiracy corner. Which leads me into lightening up the tone, lightening up the mood, getting us out of that that mind space where we tend to tell you how bad everything is for the first hour of this show.
And it's because we want you to be informed and care about it.
Absolutely.
Especially the people that live in Washington that should get out.
Yes.
Signs are not good.
So,
things are not looking good over there. That's all.
Yeah. So not to say that it's not important that we go through those things, but sometimes we need a palate cleanser to make our lives not seem so black-pilled, our lives not seem so dark and bleak. So I always look for little pockets of that, and we call that segment the dope.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like wholesome material. I like material that brings warmth and joy, that there are people still on this planet that are pursuing these types of endeavors of being connected to healthy things, because there's so many people on this planet that are not, that are driving evil across our planet, and there's little pockets and on the internet, and it's not unedifying. This stuff is
not all doom and gloom.
It's not all doom and gloom. So I have discovered, and I watch a lot of cooking shows. So, but they're kind of unique ones. I try to find ones that are funny or have something a little bit more off the beaten path. I don't like just your regular average cooking shows. I'll just look up a recipe. I don't need that. It's more for the content than it is the food. And I do love food, so if it's a good combination of both, even better. But I like a uniqueness. And in this particular case, I found this channel and I've been following it for a little while now, and they're on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and it is a beautiful little show of a family, and they put together the show called Cooking for Levi. And it's this couple, mainly the father. The mother takes kind of a backseat. You can hear her voice on the episodes more than you can see her face. You've seen her face a couple of times, but it really focuses in on the dad and their son Levi. And Jack Zhang and Emmy Zhang are the parents of Levi. And Levi they started this when he was 2 years old, and he's now 4. I honestly was shocked when I found out he was 4. I thought he was probably closer to 7. But you can go to Cooking for Levi, either their website, or go to Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, and find their content. And the show starts out with the dad in the background going, "What do you want to eat today, Levi?" And Levi looks at the camera and throws his hands up, and in an exclamation, he says whatever they decide to cook, whatever item they're cooking for the day. Mm-hmm. And it is an incredible little journey of humor and family love, where the dad is super focused, but he allows his son, he's not showing him. He shows him and allows his son to do the actual cooking, whether it be, he's got little goggles if he's got oil around so he doesn't get it in his eyes, but he's got his own knife that's actually a sharp knife, but it's built for a kid so that he can learn how to chop properly. And the kid is so articulate because I think they actually work with language skills with him too. I think that's one of their primary focuses, and they do other stuff about that as well. But every episode is them looking to cook some other, and really, really well. Like, it's culinary beauty, and they actually go out of their way to cook not just simple things. Like, this kid's shucking clams, this kid's doing
we're not just going for the blue box of mac and cheese, we're actually plating dishes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
But this kid understands all of the culinary terminology of, like refining, butter and doing stuff. And the kid is so cute, and he looks to his dad like a hero, and his dad is so calm and so patient, and literally sits in the background and watches his kid do, or he'll come in and help or show him how to do something, and the kid wants to try it. And the kid's palate, Levi's palate, is, I raised my kids to have a really, we'd let them try everything. And I have a video of Oliver when he was like a year and a half, shoveling spicy Thai curry and rice into his mouth, crying because it's so spicy, and then going back in and shoveling more Thai curry into his mouth. So my kids have always been kind of exposed to expanding their palates and making sure that they understood the beauty of food in kind of an artistic way. And I really recognize that in this family, and it's a beautiful thing. This dad allows his kid to taste test stuff, and the kid goes, that's really good, when most kids would be like, ew, icky. This kid insists on, anytime there's capers in, he eats a lot of capers. And this kid just loves food. And then they bring it, they plate it, and they bring it out onto the table, and they eat it together, and the mom's kind of off screen, but they're talking to her. And they're explaining what they did and who did what. And by the end of it, the dad kind of asks him, so what's your favorite? The kid will tell him, Levi will tell his dad what his favorite part is. And then he always ends with he leans on his dad's shoulder and just says, "I love you, Dad." And it's just so heartfelt and so warm. And so, but at the same time, it's really amazing to watch this kid's brain work while he discovers through food and a love of it. It's an incredible sight. I highly recommend people, if you just want a pocket of of warmth and of seeing a family dynamic that is just really endearing. And also be able to watch how they cook these things. I highly recommend it. It is just a really great channel. So Cooking for Levi, and watch Levi learn, watch his dad help, and kind of they've got a couple years of content that you can kind of explore, and watch them grow through this. It's pretty
Nice.
incredible. So, but yeah, that was my dope for the week. Cooking for Levi, and I highly recommend that.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
I like cooking stuff too.
So, yeah, you and I cook. So, watching these kind of things is fun, but this one kind of throws extra elements in where you get to kind of partake of the family dynamic that these people have, and the vocabulary that this kid has, and that he gets to learn about. I mean, by the time this kid's 18, he's just going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be able to work in whatever kitchen he wants if he pursues this. And he seems to have such a high passion for it that I highly doubt he gets bored and like goes on in a different direction. You can see that this is something that will carry on in his life, and he's such a sweet kid that if this kid goes into becoming a chef, he will be
probably be very good at it, and nobody will be surprised.
Yeah,
and he'll have such a social media following. Everyone will go to his restaurant when he opens.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is a fun side quest. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know how people are known for a dish? So you got to try Barb's pumpkin pie. You got to try Tom's country corn on the cob, whatever. Like, what are the dishes you think you're most known for?
Well, right now I would say it's probably smoking tri-tip because I do it so much.
Okay.
But or wings. I do wings really well.
So I'm up to 3 now. I used to just have the 1, but I think I have 3. Like, oh, he makes the best ... So I'm curious on what yours was. So tri-tips is 1, right? And this is a recent, like within the last 5-6 years endeavor for you, joining the smoker club and like unveiling a whole new world of slow cooking stuff. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I have a particular dish because I'm such a variety guy. I rarely go back. I rarely go back to the same dish. What I'm actually known for is being able to create something amazing
out of nothing.
Out of nothing. And be able to pull, like, look at a cabinet and look at what's in the fridge and go, all right, I can piece something together here. And then through just the right amount of elements and the right amount of seasonings, I can create something that people are like, how did you do this with those elements? So that's actually more what I think I'm known for, rather than my kids love my cooking no matter what I do, but it's always like, they're like, what are you making, Dad? I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there.
Pots and pans are going right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, but your 3, if I were to guess, I'm going your potatoes.
Yep.
Your mashed potatoes.
Yep.
I'm going with that. It is an Italian dish that you make, and it's phenomenal.
So that's a derivative of what I used to be known for. Essentially is mashed potatoes. The steak has entered that echelon now for I'm trying to sneak my tortillas in there. I'm still working on refining that one a little bit. I used to make a scratch lasagna, and the problem with this dish is that it's at least $100 to make, because I can make a whole pan of it at once, and it usually feeds 6 people or something, because I don't know how to cook for one still. But it takes all fucking day to make, dude. All day. And like, I don't have a noodle press anymore, so I have to use box noodles, which cuts the time down a little bit. But I still had to make my own pesto. I had to get the sausage stuff and the red sauce right, and all the wine-based stuff, and I had to hand grind garlic. And you got to go, fresh mozzarella that's high moisture, not low moisture mozzarella, and the whole 9 yards takes forever.
Man, by the way, for the listeners, this man, I've never known anybody who just consistently has pine nuts at his house at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm a pesto making fool, dude. That's weird. What do you use that for? Actually, pesto, and only pesto, because I don't eat them. Exactly that. So yeah, that the noodle dish that I made for you guys is like a really, really shrunk down version of essentially 3 of the 5 core ingredients of my lasagna. And it's like, well, I can do this in a fraction of the time here at the house. I just need to add bell peppers to it and actually start with the vegetables and work your way to the noodles kind of thing. But yeah, it used to be lasagna, and I've made it a few times, but man, it's an all day job. It takes forever to do, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. So yeah, those would probably be the 3. I want my tortillas to enter that echelon, but we're still working our way there. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been curious because you are exactly that. You're like, well, I have 5 random ingredients and some time, and my hunger is roiling. Let's figure out how to fix this with what we've got, and it's always usually very, very good. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, well, cool.
Side quest. Anyway, that was fun.
That was fun. Do you want to go to movie reviews? Did you watch
let's do it.
anything
I
this
didn't
week?
get a chance to watch the movie review, and it was weird because you sent me a text late, and it was in all caps, and I kind of like flew out of bed and read it, and I was like, "What is?" Oh, okay, cool. I went back to bed.
It was
you must have just finished the movie and then said, yeah.
We did. Yeah. So the funny thing is that when both of our kids were out of town,
yeah,
you know, Kate was down there with you, and Oliver had gone over to Winthrop, Washington to play a hockey tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And so from Thursday on, Aaron and I had the house to ourselves, which is super, super weird. And we never, ever, you know, I'm always up late waiting for the kids to get home because my family has to be in the house before I can sleep. I cannot sleep unless I know where they're at. If they're out of town, at least I know that they're both at their places that they need to be, and then I can go to sleep. But if they're in town, they have to be in the house before I can go to sleep. Yeah. So, which is always late nights for me. They're not out late. They kind of self-regulate and they're always home by like 10, but the thing is that like Aaron and I are like, well, what do we do? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, do we just sit here on our phones on the couch, or and we've got ideas to remedy that. That's a different topic altogether. But in this particular case, we were scrolling TV and saw this movie, and it played the trailer for this movie called Tetris. And Tetris is a movie that came out in 2023. And it came out on Apple TV, and it's streaming on Amazon right now, just in case, not just Apple TV. But it's a film directed by John Bayard and written by Noah Pink, but it stars Taron Egerton and Mara Huff and Miles Barrow. But Taron Egerton is the kid who was in the Kingsman movies, and he was actually in the biopic for Elton John. He played Elton John in that.
He also did a Robin Hood movie recently. Yeah, he
did that. So quick on his feet, quick tongue, good actor. I'm really liking this kid and where his projection is going. But this movie took us by surprise, blew us away. It is literally about the game Tetris. However, it is set in 1989, and it is about a guy named Hank Rogers. And Hank Rogers was a guy who owned a small software company that was kind of trying to break into different gaming elements, and was at CES down in Vegas when he saw this game that this guy was playing called Tetris. And nobody could get the rights to it because it was a Russian-owned game. And so he was like, I got to get the rights to this. And he had a connection where he was trying to, you know, he's got his wife and kids. He grew up, he was a Dutch guy who grew up in New York, but after college, he met his wife in college, moved back to her home country of Japan. So he lived in Japan and had a wife and kid there, but he was trying to get the next big game, you know, and he was trying to actually get the old ancient Chinese game Go to be a real big video game, right? And nobody was buying into it, but it turns out the guy who runs Nintendo is a big Go player. So he created a connection with the owner of Nintendo, who at the time it had big success with Nintendo, but their next big thing was a handheld Game Boy,
Yep.
which was coming out that year. And what he said is that if I can get the rights to Tetris, this is the game that you should accompany with the launch of this handheld system. And as somebody who grew up when that actually happened, when the Game Boy was brand new, you got Tetris, and it was the first time we all saw that game, and the whole world loved it. There was not a single person who didn't love Tetris. But it was tied up in the rights of the guy who actually created it, and his name was Alexei Pajitnov, who, you know, obviously a Russian guy, and he worked for a software company in communist Soviet Union at the time, under Mikhail Gorbachev during the Cold War. At the tail end, everything's kind of collapsing. The KGB's running everything, right? This
Gorbachev, a real one.
Yeah. This tale was mind-blowing.
Yep.
So he goes out there, and even at the warning of people, like, you're not going to be able to get this game. They don't let the properties out under communist regime. It's just not going to happen. He goes, I'll see what I can do. So this is a tale basically spun around corporate espionage, with multiple software companies trying to get a hold of this. The KGB.
I assume they Hollywooded this up a tiny bit, but there is from my understanding, a giant amount of truth to what you just said around a lot of the stuff.
That is exactly correct. And they'll admit that, you know, like the car chase was a little bit ramped up for, you know, for
I've heard this was one of the most wild stories in entertainment histories Right.
But beat for beat, the elements happened.
Yeah.
And so now what ends up happening is a struggle for control of this when you've got elements of the Russian government, KGB element defectors basically coming in, who are all trying to get their piece of the pie, and even other software players that include, and this will blow your mind, Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Another real one. Yeah.
Right. So, and what's crazy is that he's this multi-billionaire, and his son is involved, Kevin Maxwell, who they are actually portrayed in this movie. They're main characters because they were main software developers that hired a guy named Robert Stein to get this for them. And everyone's screwing each other over because they know that this property is going to be multi-million dollar, you know,
it's a
insane amounts of money. It's a gold mine. And so they're all trying to screw each other over. It's, you know, switching hands. Who has the rights? Who doesn't? Was that contract legit? And it's this huge high-end drama that's built around this global conspiracy that ultimately the capitalistic purchase of this IP out of Russia is what was technically the nail in the coffin for the Soviet Union to collapse, because they could not deny that, you know, in Mother Russia at the area, you know, in the USSR, that all intellectual properties are owned by the government, that they will all share the wealth of whatever comes out of this, right? But they could not deny that this intellectual property had such heavy significance that somebody was going to make some money off of it, and that capitalism was going to win. And it did, and it showed the people of the USSR, oh, exactly, that's why. And it collapsed. But I mean, the guy who created it, this Alexei guy, you know, he had a wife and kid. The KGB came in and started threatening his family, threatened to drop his kids off a bridge, moved him out of his apartment because he was a naughty boy. And he was the one who ended up actually helping Hank Rogers to actually secure the rights to it, and they fled out of the country with the rights. The guys from Nintendo and Hank got out of the country and actually fled with the rights of this. That ended up collapsing the Soviet Union. They had to get Alexei afterwards in 91, they moved him out of the country with his wife and kids, and he's still currently alive living near Seattle.
Yep.
And so, but the fact that, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, who then the reason he didn't get the actual rights was because as a multimillionaire, he had tanked so badly he couldn't come up with $1 million to secure the rights at that time, which then put him into what was all over the news of his empire collapsing and him being sued out the wazoo, and then him being eventually murdered by, depending on who you ask, either CIA agents or Mossad agents or whatever. But if you look into Maxwell, I mean, he made his fortune basically by publishing, and all of the school books in the United States are been published by him. And so there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on there. But just the fact that he was,
my understanding is this is the same man that you've heard of the term specifically in the medical community around peer review. That entire peer review in order to get published process was also invented by that man. So there's like this whole hornswoggle of, hustling the medical community and making it the new bar standard in order to get something published, which also invites a lot of biases and counter opinions and social narratives and stuff. Like all of that is from my knowledge, resulting from his same kind of bullshit and chicanery. So
yeah, totally. But what, the fact that he was involved in the acquisition process of the Tetris of all games,
that's
right?
Crazy.
And so, and a heavy component to it. It wasn't like he was just a tertiary character. He was one of the main players that was flying to Moscow and in rooms with people who were like, and bribing KGB agents in order to get like this property. And, it was incredible. It was such a ride, but on a creative level, they took this story that was mind-blowing, and I had no idea. I'd been playing this game since I was a kid and did not know the actual global impact it had. And I don't think very many people did.
Now, I've heard of all this before, but I'd never like equated many of it to being like, well, how much was that embellished? I don't know. Where would you even start to look and stuff? So, but I was aware that this was a significant point in global history, this game, for sure, for all the reasons you mentioned. Yeah. Didn't know about the Maxwell part, but.
Right, yeah. But they wrapped it up in a really slick filming process that kept you paced through it in a really kind of pushy, jumpy fashion that really was kind of took you from drama to action to drama to humor to drama, and did a really good job of doing that. But all the cutscenes were 8-bit digital cutscenes that were really, really creative. And the car chase scene, I'm glad that they added it, because every time the cars would collide with something, it would explode in pixels. And
it would blow up and look like a tetrimino that exploded. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And so they really did a good job of creating a entertainment element to this story. And I highly recommend it, man. It kept my wife up till 2 a.m. when I ended up texting you, which is unheard of. She's down for the count by 10:30. If she sits down on the couch to watch a movie, she's gone. I might as well just put the blankets on her and say goodnight. But in this particular instance, like, she was glued. And highly recommend this movie. I would say 9 megs.
Wow.
Rewatchability is great. They really made enough of an entertainment of this story that it does have rewatchability to it. And so we'll watch it again. 9 megs. Definitely.
Yeah, I tried to get it this weekend for sure. And I was looking like, where can I watch the Tetris movie, and I saw the poster for it with Taron Egerton's face. That's why I asked you about it. But it said it was Apple TV, and I was like, I don't have Apple TV. But I did not know and should have thought I could probably get this through Amazon Prime or whatever. So I'll definitely check into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, that's my movie review for the week. Definitely a fun one, and
Nice.
yeah, it did its rounds at film festivals and did really well, but that was in 2023, and I don't think it had a theatrical release.
Well,
I think
we
it went
were
straight to Apple TV.
we were worried about SARS-CoV-19 at that point, weren't we?
I probably still, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it didn't have a theatrical release, but it did the film festival stuff, and then I think it went straight to Apple TV. But it has gotten a weird resurgence lately, and I think it might have to do with the Maxwell element.
Could
But
be.
yeah, but yeah, great movie.
Nice.
I learned a lot, and it was a fun watch. So, but that brings us into, people like Maxwell who shouldn't be in charge of things
Mhm.
because they make mistakes and they're dumb.
Yeah.
But if we were the overlords,
That's right.
or if you, the listener, wants to be an evil overlord or an overlord, you don't have to be evil, but just a smart overlord, somebody who has taken the reins, unlike the overlords of Washington State. If you actually want to do it properly,
Sure.
we have been going through a list of tips and hints and advice on how to do
Just
that
little
properly.
nuggets. Just
Yeah,
tips
so-
on how to be a better overlord. I love it.
This week, Overlord tip number 16
Mhm.
is I will never utter the sentence, but before I kill you, there's just one thing I want to know.
Mhm.
I don't care.
Yeah.
If you have,
If you're at that
If
point,
you-
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need, if you're at the point where you get to eliminate the problem, you don't need any more information. You don't need don't scratch your brain and go,
That's right. Governor
something,
Bob Ferguson
something
sure
vexes-
doesn't.
Right. Something vexes me. How did you get around my sniper? Like, who cares? Kill the guy. It doesn't matter. Move on. Like, you've got things to do. You're an overlord. Don't
Yeah.
waste your time with this situation where you're trying to figure out how he outcrafted you.
I love
Doesn't
it.
matter. Ultimately, you outcrafted him because you're
Yeah.
standing there with the firearm to his temple. Just
great.
or whatever the case, or you push him over the cliff. Do whatever you got to do, but don't waste your time with nonsense that is gonna. You can think about that later. Like, figure it out. I'm sure the answer will come to fruition on another time. You don't need to ask the guy and give him that window of opportunity, or maybe put a doubt in your head.
Yeah.
And
Just
then
to
he's-
save the aggregators some time, I'll just throw out that obviously our overlord tips are satirical in nature and completely fictitious. So when that
100%,
clip of you runs over and over again in somebody's watch list,
You're right. Yeah.
at least we can have it on record that obviously we're joking. But I love this tip.
Yes.
You're there, everything's ready. Just close the book, man. Just that's it,
Yeah.
and move on. You don't need to know any of those extraneous details. They don't matter. It's
Exactly.
excellent tip. That's amazing.
So, well, outside of that does it for me, my dude.
Yeah.
I think I have spent my emotional load.
Well, then I'll
for
save my
lack of better
52
term.
point plan for another pod. No, that's it for me too. We will see everybody hopefully next week. I hope you have an awesome evening, and love y'all. See you then.